get your more reaction to that briefing by the Basic Education Department and speak to Nkosana Dolopi from the South African Democratic Teachers Union. He's the Deputy General Secretary joining us live this hour. Mr. Dolopi, a very good afternoon to you. Grateful for your time. You've just been hearing that the research by the Basic Education Department shows that people in rural and poorer communities have been worst affected by the interruptions to schooling. And I'm curious if you as a union are satisfied with the approach taken by government to address that.
Look, good afternoon and good afternoon to your viewers. Yes, indeed, we are concerned by the fact that we are experiencing these challenges of loss of time and also question of loss of learning, in particular in the rural areas and also in the township schools. But to some extent, Tembegile, we are not surprised because we have always been raising some of these issues that are now compounded by COVID. Firstly, around the question of overcrowded class sizes at our schools, the provision and the employment of more teachers at our schools. If we were listening to a long time ago, we would not have had this problem now of loss of time, loss of learning and all those kind of things there, because our class sizes would have been so small to an extent that we would have been able to accommodate all our learners in those schools there and adhere even to the regulations of the COVID based on social distancing and all those other factors. So it's a question of leaders not having done what they were always asked to do, to cut down on the number of learners at our schools, in the rural schools, in the township schools, deal with overcrowding. And if we would have done that a long time ago, all learners now would have been at school without following the rotational timetable.
And given then the loss of school time so significant in 2020, between 50 to 75% is what the government is telling us was likely to have been lost, is it wise to then still take the break in October when that could have been used to address what was lost in June of this year when the third wave forced an early closure of schools?
Tebegile, there will never be a 2020 again. We must not mislead ourselves that we will be able to recover and get back 2020. What we need to do now is to look at what we have and what we can do to make sure that we assist our learners moving forward. Firstly, learners, some of them have been at school on a daily basis. Here we talk about grade 7s and also grade 11s in some schools and grade 12s. These learners have been attending school on a daily basis. So we are arguing as SADU that those learners need a break. There's a question of anxiety because of the pandemic. But also these learners have been subjected to long hours at school. Some of them stay at school up to 1:30, go back to school at 3, come back at 5:30. Some of them stay on Saturdays and Sundays. It's unhealthy. It's uneducational. Children are going to burn out. Our children are going to collapse if we keep them at school for a very long time. If you keep the learners beyond the 5 days in October, you would have kept them for a period uninterrupted for almost 20 weeks. So we are happy that the sanity prevailed. The minister listened to stakeholders. She heeded our call, and now at least will allow learners to at least have a break to re-energize, recharge, go back to school and prepare for the last period of examinations.
Let's bring in Sibusiso Malinga now, Acting President of the National Teachers Union, joining us as well. Mr. Malinga, grateful for your time. Do you think that in this final stretch of the 2021's academic year, we'll be able to cover all the work that pupils and teachers need to get through?
Thank you so much. Greetings to your viewers and my leader, the Deputy Secretary of SADU. No, I don't think we will ever cover the lost time, taking into consideration that this pandemic is with us forever. If you can go back a little bit, then you compare the grade 12 class that is for 2020 and that one for 2021. We are in a very serious actually challenge with the grade 12, 21 class. You know, they had gaps last year when they were doing grade 11. So now the pandemic is still with us. Therefore, there are still gaps. Therefore, at no point in time where we can recover the time lost, What we need to do is only to make sure that we put systems in place according to COVID-19, because it seems as if COVID-19 is going to be with us maybe for the next 5 years. One may never know. Therefore, the challenge is with us, the Department of Education, unions, and all people who have interest in education, to say, let's put systems that will go actually according to COVID-19, because we don't know when we're going actually to be relieved with this COVID-19.
And are you seeing those systems that you're calling for being implemented as government and yourselves as unions? Are you all proactive enough in doing what needs to be done?
Yes, surely we are proactive enough as unions, if I may put it like that. The challenge is that we do not actually got listened attentively by the department. For instance, the department wanted to make sure that the holidays are actually scrapped, but we stood up and fight for that, because we were thinking for the teachers who actually are exhausted, if I can say so. Remember, our teachers are working extra hours. They get into schools as early as 5 o'clock in the morning. They push their work. They also knock off some, let's say 7 o'clock in the afternoon. And some, as I speak, they are at school. Then when you find the department trying to scratch those holidays, then we had a challenge. But fortunately enough, the minister has announced that they are not going to scratch those holidays. Therefore, if we can come together and actually attend to all issues that need to be attended to, the issue of social distancing in schools. There was also an idea that the department want also to reduce that. We also stood up to say we cannot reduce the social distancing because it's key. We need to make sure that learners in classes, they adhere to all COVID-19 protocols. Therefore, we say the department must make sure that we all adhere to this. Remember, my leader, it has been said that all classes, especially the grade R to grade 7, should come back to school and adhere to the normal timetable. Then we said, no, we cannot, because the situation is still abnormal. We cannot turn as if things are normal. We requested that the department brings more mobile classes to make sure that they return in full.
Let
the
me ask
department
you this,
should
Mr.
bring...
Malinga, pardon me, I'm only
Yes.
coming in because we are going to be out of time soon. As far
Yes.
as the COVID-19 situation, Basic Education Minister Njumu Tsekga said during the Q&A, the question and answer session today, that yes, the department is not going to be pushing for the reduction of social distancing in the classroom to the 0.5 meter, which she had argued may be necessary in order to get as many pupils in class as possible. And she said the reason for that is that we still have too many active cases in the country, and the caseload reported daily is still worrying. As a union, and I'll come to you as well, Nkosana Dolopi, what number, as far as the daily infections, do you think would mean that it's safe to reduce social distancing?
No. Actually, remember, initially it was said it's 1.5 meter. Then the department reduced it to 1 meter. Then we can stay at that 1 meter distance, because you know what? Now this pandemic affects even learners in grade R. Therefore, we cannot say we reduce it further. We cannot allow a situation whereby we will say learners must be subjected to COVID-19, because it has been proven beyond reasonable doubt that the pandemic actually attacks learners now.
Okay. Nkosana Dolopi, do you think there'll ever be a point where we can reduce spacing in classroom to 0.5 meter, given that COVID-19, firstly, is not going anywhere anytime soon, and that children at this point are not being vaccinated in South Africa?
Like I said, the question of class sizes did not come about as a result of COVID. Trade unions, many other NGOs like education, equal education, governing bodies, always presented this point that in the townships and in the rural schools, our schools are overcrowded. So what COVID has done, it has amplified our voice. It compounded the problem. It did not introduce it. It has always been a problem of having overcrowded classes at our schools. So we are saying our government now that the voice is louder, amplified by COVID, they need to address the question of overcrowding at our schools in the townships and moving forward. Secondly, addressing the question of time, what we can do is to address the question of curriculum. How do we trim the curriculum? There are some areas in the curriculum that we feel as SADC we can do without saying that they are less important, but we are saying that there are areas that we can do without and focus on those areas that we think are very, very important, areas that we think learners can't go without being covered. That will be one way of addressing the question of time. But the question of saying that we can get back time lost in 2020, we can just forget. It will never work. Let's work on what we are able to do. And one of those areas will be to trim the curriculum, look at addressing some of these areas that we can reduce the curriculum from, and move forward and make sure that we prepare our learners. But also,
crucial to that, Mr. Dolopi, pardon me for cutting you off. We've got 30 seconds left. Crucial to that will be enough teachers in classrooms to teach. What is the position now on educators who still don't want to take the COVID-19 vaccine? Are they being instructed to turn up for duty by yourselves as unions?
Look, we have always encouraged all our members to be vaccinated. We have seen the numbers increasing. There were many reasons why people did not vaccinate. It was not a question just of them refusing to take vaccination. Of course, the question of information, counter-information, and some of these theories that we put up in the public. But to a large extent now, we are satisfied by the work that we have done in terms of mobilizing our members to go for vaccination, because the last time I heard, it was far above 90%. So I think in the near future, we would have reached a substantial number of our teachers. But vaccinated or not, let's address other key areas that are problematic in terms of making sure our schools are safe for our learners.
Nkosana Dolopi from SADC and Sibusiso Malinga from NATU. Grateful for your time, gentlemen. Thank you for being on Newsfeed PM.